It was going to be one of those endless 12-hour stretches that wear you down to absolutely nothing by the time it is finished. Not the kind of day where you wake up fresh and alert and feeling like you can take on the world and accomplish anything you set your mind to. The kind of day where your eyes feel like they have sandpaper grinding underneath the lids, making it hard to keep them open. Where your entire back aches from sitting in the same position for far too long. Where your hands cramp up on the steering wheel from gripping it so tightly, and your neck feels like someone has been twisting it in knots all day long. I had left the lumber mill in Minnesota very early that morning, right around 5:30 a.m., when the sun was just starting to think about rising over the far distant horizon, barely beginning to lighten up the darkness of the early morning sky. My truck was loaded incredibly heavy with freshly cut wood, wet wood that still smelled like the forest, wood that was headed toward the Canadian border many hours away. This was not light cargo that you could easily maneuver or shift around in the truck bed. This was tons and tons of fresh lumber, still wet from a sawmill where it had been cut just days before, heavy and dense, and very valuable to the people waiting for it in Canada. The load shifted my truck's weight significantly, making it handle differently than it did when it was empty, making every turn a calculated movement that required careful planning, making every stop a careful operation that required extra braking distance and attention. The sun was sinking down fast now, dropping down toward the horizon like it was being pulled down by gravity itself, as if someone had turned on a switch that made time accelerate in the day, and suddenly, the sky transformed completely into shades of orange and gold and red and purple that made everything around me look incredibly peaceful and calm, like the world was getting ready to go to sleep for the night, and everything was preparing for darkness. It was that magical golden hour when the day starts its transition into night, when the light becomes golden and rich and warm, and everything is bathed in a glow that makes you feel like you're looking at a photograph or a painting rather than real life. The light was so beautiful and so peaceful that it was almost hard to believe anything bad could exist in a world that looked like this. I was passing through a small town that seemed only half alive at best, like it was caught between two different states of being. Not quite a ghost town, completely abandoned, but not a thriving community either. Just a place that existed in the space between other places, between the big cities and the open highway. Only a handful of cars were rolling down the main street, moving slowly, probably people heading home from work or going to dinner. The houses were starting to turn on their porch lights, even though the sun had not completely disappeared yet below the horizon. People were preparing for evening, getting ready for the night ahead, turning on lights inside their homes, settling in for the coming darkness. My eyes were burning from staring at the road for so long, from looking at the endless ribbon of asphalt stretching ahead of me for hours without break. I was running on black coffee, strong coffee that tasted bitter and burnt, and habit, barely thinking about anything except making it to the next fuel stop and getting some real rest. Sleep was what I needed most in the world at that moment, more than food, more than anything else. That is when I saw her standing there on the shoulder of the road. She was standing on the shoulder of the highway with her thumb stuck out in that universal sign that means you need a ride and you are hoping desperately that someone will stop for you and help you out. She was young, maybe 16 years old, still a teenager with that innocent look that young people have. She had a backpack slung over one shoulder that looked heavy and worn, and a worried expression on her face that I could see even from a distance through my truck window. She was wearing denim shorts, the kind that were cut short and looked like they might have been fashionable at some point in time, but were worn and faded now, and a thin short-sleeve shirt that was not nearly warm enough for the evening chill that was starting to come and starting to bite at the edges of things. There was no jacket, no sweater, no protection against the cold that would come when the sun finally dropped below the horizon completely and the temperature took a sharp drop like it always does in this part of the country. I've been driving these roads for many years, years and years of driving back and forth, and I know from experience how fast the temperature drops up here when darkness falls completely. It happens in minutes, like someone turned off a switch that was providing heat. The air goes from being comfortably cool to being cold enough to make you shiver if you're not prepared for it. The drop in temperature is dramatic and fast and can be dangerous. My mama had always told me the same thing that every old-timer on the road tells you when you're learning to be a trucker. Never pick up strangers. There are too many stories that start exactly like this one, with a young person on the side of the road asking for help, and they end in a way that nobody wants to hear about. Stories that end badly and tragically. Stories that end in ways that make you question why you ever stopped in the first place. But I looked at her small frame, standing alone on that shoulder, the way she stood with nervous energy, the way she kept looking down the empty road like she was hoping someone specific would come along, someone she knew, someone she trusted. The nearest town with a motel or a gas station was still miles away, maybe 5 or 6 miles at my current speed. And once the darkness came down completely, she would be alone out here in the middle of nowhere, completely isolated and vulnerable. No lights around, no people nearby, no way to get help if something went wrong. That thought made something in my chest squeeze tight, made me feel uncomfortable and guilty with the idea of just driving past her and leaving her there. Without really thinking it through completely, without considering all the consequences and dangers that could come from this decision, I eased off the gas and pulled my truck over onto the shoulder of the road, tires crunching on the gravel. The truck slowed down gradually as my foot came off the accelerator, the air brakes hissing as I brought the big rig to a complete stop. She climbed up into the high cab with a smile of relief on her face that was genuine and real and grateful. I could tell she was truly grateful that someone had finally stopped, that someone had noticed her standing there in the fading light and had the compassion to pull over and offer her a ride. She moved quickly, eager to get into the warm truck. "Thank you so much," she said, brushing her hair back from her face with both hands. Her hands were trembling slightly from either cold or nerves. I could not tell which. I got separated from my friends on a hiking trip, and I just need to get to the next town over. I'm trying not to freak out my parents. They don't even know I'm out here yet, and I really don't want them to worry about me and call the police or something. I told her my name was Tom and shifted the truck back into gear, feeling the engine respond. I told her she was lucky I came by before it got completely dark, before the sun disappeared entirely and the night came in full force. I asked her what exactly had happened to her out here on the road and how she got separated from her group. She gave a casual shrug and twisted a strand of her blonde hair between her fingers. She was trying to look calm and composed, but there was tension in her movements, tension I could feel. We were hiking in a group, and I wandered off the main path, trying to get a better view of the landscape and get some pictures, she said, her voice sounding natural and convincing. Got turned around pretty quick. By the time I found my way back to the road, my friends were gone. The trail was empty. The group had moved on without me. You're the first truck that has actually stopped for me. I've been standing out here for maybe an hour, and nobody else stopped all that time. For a while, the conversation felt normal and easy and natural. Just two people who didn't know each other filling the silence with small talk, filling the empty space with words and normal conversation. She asked me how long I had been driving a truck for a living, whether it ever felt lonely being out on the road by myself day after day, week after week. I told her that it could get lonely sometimes, but I have the radio and my own thoughts and the constant hum of the engine to keep me company. That beats sitting in an office under fluorescent lights all day, wearing dress clothes that feel uncomfortable and restricting, dealing with office politics and drama, and people you do not like. She laughed, a soft sound that seemed genuine and natural, not forced. Still though, she said, her voice becoming quieter and more serious. Doesn't it scare you sometimes? Being out here alone in the dark with nobody around? What if something happened to you? What if you had an accident or a breakdown? I chuckled at her concern. No, not really, I said. The road is actually the safest part of my day. It is people you have to watch out for. That is where the real danger comes from. When she smiled at that comment, something strange happened that I immediately noticed. The smile did not reach her eyes. There was no warmth in it, no genuine feeling behind it. Just a cold expression that made me feel suddenly uncomfortable in a way I could not quite explain to myself. Like something had shifted in the air between us. Like I had just said something that was important, something that had real meaning to her that I did not understand. Like I had revealed something about myself without meaning to. Twilight came on fast as we continued driving down the highway. The sky changed from blue to purple to a deep bruise color that looked almost unnatural and wrong, like a bruise on skin. The road stretched out in front of us like a gray ribbon with no end in sight, cutting through forests and open fields. The highway was completely empty now. No cars in front of us, no cars behind us, no other vehicles anywhere. Just endless darkness in both directions. The solitude was absolute and complete. She shifted in her seat next to me, moving slightly. "Do you have any water?" she asked. "I'm really thirsty. My mouth is so dry from the heat." I reached behind the seat and grabbed a bottle of cold water from my small cooler. The bottle was icy cold from sitting in the cooler all day in the sun. I handed it to her without taking my eyes off the road. She took a slow sip, her eyes fixed on the horizon ahead of us, studying the darkness that was coming. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the rumble of the engine and the hum of the tires against the asphalt. Then suddenly she sat up straight in her seat, her entire body tensing. "Wait, slow down," she said, her voice tight with what sounded like alarm or excitement or something in between. "There is something on the road up ahead. Do you see it?" I eased off the gas and let the truck slow down gradually, my foot coming off the accelerator slowly and carefully. Ahead of us, in the beam of my headlights, I could see something stretched across both lanes of the highway. At first, I could not make out what it was. The shapes were not clear in the dim light. As we got closer and closer, my stomach dropped completely, sinking down like I was in a falling elevator. There were 3 shapes lying completely motionless on the asphalt. People. 3 human bodies lying face down or twisted to the side, completely still under the dying light of the fading sun. They looked pale, almost white in the bright headlights of my truck. "What the hell?" I muttered, my voice coming out strange in my own ears, almost like I did not recognize my own voice. There was no wrecked car nearby anywhere. No broken glass scattered across the road. No skid marks showing a collision had occurred. No emergency lights, no warning triangles, nothing except the bodies. Just 3 pale, still bodies lying in the middle of the highway like they were waiting for something. "Looks like an accident," Katie said, and her voice was tight with something that did not sound entirely like concern. It sounded more like urgency, like she was giving me instructions. "We have to help them." "Tom, what are you doing?" "Stop the truck right now. We have to stop and help them. They might be dying." But something felt deeply wrong about the whole scene. It was too clean, too organized, too much like something someone had deliberately set up on purpose. I had heard stories over the years from other truckers I knew, stories about fake accidents on lonely highways and places like this. Stories about road pirates and gangs that used accidents as a trap to get trucks to stop so they could rob the drivers, or worse. Much worse. Things I did not even want to think about. I kept my foot hovering above the brake pedal, not quite stopping, not quite committing to stopping. "We will call it in," I said finally, reaching for the CB radio microphone next to my seat. The radio was my lifeline, my connection to other people, my way to get help. "We can let the state patrol handle this. They're trained for this kind of thing. They know what they are doing. They will send an ambulance." "No," she snapped, her tone suddenly sharp and commanding in a way that did not sound like a scared teenage girl anymore. It sounded like someone else entirely. Someone older. Someone harder. Someone dangerous. "You don't have time for that. They might be dying. Stop the truck right now. Do it now. Stop." Her voice had changed completely. It was not panicked. It was cold and controlled, like someone giving orders to someone they expected to obey without question, like someone who was used to being in command. My stomach sank like I had just dropped down in an elevator moving downward fast. This was wrong. Something was very, very wrong with this situation. I will just get help started, I said, and I keyed the radio mic. This is Tom, northbound on Route 61. I have got possible injured parties on the road. Send in my coordinates now. Before I could give the coordinates, she lunged at me suddenly. Her hand grabbed the radio cord and yanked it hard, pulling with all her strength. The microphone flew out of my hand and fell somewhere on the floor of the cab. She was shouting something at me, her voice angry and desperate and commanding. Stop. Don't call anyone. We can handle this ourselves. Let them up, Tom. Just let them up. I shove her away from me, hard enough that she crashed back against the passenger door with force. The truck swerved on the highway as I struggled to keep control, and my hands gripped the wheel tighter to keep it straight and on the road. My heart was hammering in my chest like it wanted to break through my ribs. What the hell are you doing? I shouted at her. Her eyes had changed completely. She was not the scared girl anymore. There was just cold calculation there now, like I was watching a mask being pulled off to reveal what was underneath. I could see the real person now, and she was not scared at all. She was predatory, like a hunting animal. Turn around, she said, her voice low and steady, like she was trying to be reasonable about asking me to do something insane. My friends are waiting. All you have to do is turn the truck around. That's all. Just turn around and go back. Your friends? I said, my heart hammering faster and harder. I looked in my mirror at the road behind me. One of the bodies on the road had suddenly sat up like it was returning from the dead. It looked directly at us in the light of my truck, and then it scrambled to move toward the side of the road, dropping the act. Not injured at all. Completely fine. Faking the whole thing. All of it was faked. That is when the whole thing suddenly made perfect sense to me. The setup was fake. The hitchhiker was part of it. This entire scene was a trap that I had almost driven right into. If I had stopped, if I had gotten out of the truck to help, I would have been surrounded by the gang and completely alone. You're in on this, I said quietly, my voice steady even though I was terrified. This is a setup. This whole thing. You are criminals. She smiled then, and it was a sharp, cold expression that was more frightening than any angry face could be. Just pull over at the next safe spot, and no one gets hurt. Not you, not us. We just need to take your truck and whatever you are carrying. That's all. Simple as that. Nobody needs to get hurt if you cooperate. Not a chance, I said, and I pushed the accelerator down hard. The engine roared loudly, and the truck surged forward with power. The engine screaming with the effort. The truck picked up speed and shot forward down the highway. She realized right then that I was not going to stop for anything. She started screaming and pounding the dashboard with her fists, hitting it over and over. Let me out right now, she yelled. Let me out of this truck right now. Let me out. Not happening, I said, and I meant every single word. We are heading straight to the checkpoint up ahead. You can wait for the police there. You can explain to them what you were trying to do. Her expression flickered, and I saw something flicker across her face that looked like real panic for the first time. You can't take me there, she said, and her voice had changed again. Now it sounded younger, more like an actual scared teenager. Please don't let them see me. Please. You don't understand what will happen if they find me. There are things you don't know about. But I kept driving, my foot pressed down hard on the accelerator. I was not going to let what almost happened keep happening. In my mirror, I could see her struggling, trying to get the door open, pulling at the handle. And then, in the darkness ahead, I saw them. Flashing lights. Red and blue lights cutting through the night. The border checkpoint. Safety. Salvation. Relief hit me like oxygen after I had been drowning. 2 police officers stepped forward as I rolled the truck to a complete stop. Their flashlights caught my face first, then turned to look at the girl next to me. I could see the surprise on her face when she realized she was about to be caught. Good evening, one of the officers said, his voice calm and professional. License and registration, please. I handed them over. I nodded toward Katie. I picked her up hitchhiking back on the road, I said. She told me she was lost. But then something weird happened. There were people lying on the highway, and she tried to get me to stop. Then she tried to attack me when I called for help. Katie's face changed completely. Tears started streaming down her cheeks. "He forced me into this truck," she said, her voice shaky and scared. "He wouldn't let me go. He was being so nice at first. And then he was going to... She did not finish the sentence, but she let the implication hang in the air. She was a good actress, very good. Even I almost believed her. The performance was that good. She was a natural actress with real talent. But the cops did not flinch at all. They exchanged a quick look with each other, like they had seen this exact same thing before. Like this was not the first time they had caught this particular scam. "We know who you are," one of the officers said quietly. Within the next few minutes, the truth came out. Katie was not Katie at all. Her real name was Corey, and she was 17 years old. She had escaped from a youth detention facility 5 days ago with a group of other kids. She had escaped with 6 other juveniles, though only 5 were involved in the highway robbery ring. The 3 people lying on the highway were part of her crew and gang. They had been trying to ambush the first truck that stopped. They were planning to rob whoever stopped, take their cargo, maybe hurt them in the process, or worse. It was a coordinated attack planned in advance. "You got lucky," one of the officers told me later as they loaded Corey into the back of a patrol car. She fought and screamed the whole time, kicking the metal door of the cruiser hard enough to make it rattle and shake. If you had pulled over, they would have had you. They were armed with knives. 2 of them had blades on them. Another had a crowbar. They were planning to take your truck and your cargo and leave no witnesses behind. The police questioned me for hours that night. They checked my truck carefully from top to bottom, making sure there was nothing suspicious, nothing I was hiding. They made sure that my story matched up with what the other kids were saying, and it did. Every detail matched. Eventually, they cleared me to leave. I was not a suspect. I was a victim who had escaped. When I finally drove away from that checkpoint, the parking lot was empty except for my rig, and I could still hear the sound of Corey's voice screaming from inside the patrol car, even though she was long gone. I drove through the rest of the night with my hands tight on the steering wheel. My knuckles were white from gripping it so hard. The road looked exactly the same as it always did, but it felt completely different now. Every shadow on the road seemed to move like it was alive. Every set of headlights coming up behind me made my chest tighten with fear. I have hauled thousands of miles of freight since that night, and not one single time have I stopped to pick up a hitchhiker again. I just keep driving past them, because out here on these long, empty stretches of highway, you learn something important pretty fast. The real danger does not always hide in the dark where you can see it coming. Sometimes the real danger smiles at you and thanks you for the ride and seems completely innocent and harmless. That lesson probably saved my life that night. I was rolling west down Interstate 40, driving a load of electronics and computer equipment from Tulsa, Oklahoma toward Phoenix, Arizona. This was valuable cargo, the kind of thing that thieves and criminals look for in marked trucks to steal. Midnight had come and gone a while ago, and the desert highway stretched ahead of me like a black ribbon that had no end, laid out under a moon that was so washed out it looked almost dead. The moon was so pale that it barely cast any light on the road at all. The darkness was almost complete around me. I had been driving for hours by that point, maybe 6 or 7 hours without stopping. There was nothing in my world except me, the low hum of the diesel engine, and the rhythmic sound of the tires hitting the asphalt over and over again. The sound of the wheels on the road becomes like a heartbeat after a while. It becomes the sound of life itself. The world around me felt completely empty, like everything had been stripped down to just headlights, yellow lines painted on the road, and shadows that seemed to move and shift when I was not looking directly at them. Tricks of the eye caused by exhaustion and the monotony of the road. The CB radio was on low volume, just low enough that I could hear it if something important came through. The radio provided connection, provided the sense that I was not completely alone out there. Every now and then, It would crackle with distant voices of other truckers passing through different states, talking about weather conditions, fuel prices, where the best diners were, things like that. It was comforting noise in a weird way, the kind of sound that made me feel less alone out there in all that endless dark space. The kind of sound that made me feel connected to a community of people who understood the loneliness of the road. Then, out of nowhere, a voice cut through clear as crystal. It was not distant or fuzzy like most of the other voices on the CB. This voice was loud and clear, and it was talking directly to me like it was in the cab with me. "Breaker, breaker," the voice said. "Red semi with the blue cap. You copy." I reached for the microphone, surprised. My rig, Red Runner, was pretty distinctive, but it was not common for someone to call me out specifically like that. I knew most of the other truckers on the road, or at least I knew the ones who talked on the CB, and I did not recognize this voice. "Yeah, this is Red Runner," I said into the mic. The reply came low and rough, like gravel in a throat that had smoked way too many cigarettes over a long lifetime. The voice had a quality to it that immediately made my skin feel prickly. There was something wrong with it, something off and dangerous. "Saw you back at the last fuel stop," the voice said. "Nice rig you got there." I was looking at it and thinking about that load you were hauling. Bet that load of electronics is worth a fortune out in Phoenix. A lot of money, a lot of valuable equipment in those boxes. I frowned at the radio. The last stop had been nearly an hour ago, maybe a little longer. It had been a lonely gas station near the state line with flickering lights and only one employee working, and he had looked like he was barely awake. It was the kind of place where you pump your own gas and nobody really pays attention to what anyone is doing. People pump their gas and leave. I tried to remember if I'd seen anyone unusual there, anyone watching the rig, anyone who stood out, but I could not remember seeing anyone like that. "Thanks for the compliment," I said, keeping my voice cautious. "Is there something you need help with? Do you have a breakdown or something?" The voice chuckled. It was a slow, deliberate chuckle, like the person was savoring the sound of their own laugh, taking pleasure in something. No, nothing like that. Just admiring your rig. Saw it up close at that fuel stop. Nice vehicle. Tell me, though, you alone tonight? You got a partner riding shotgun with you? Or are you running solo? Something about the question made my skin crawl. My whole body suddenly felt tight. The way he asked it was casual, but there was something underneath the question that felt wrong. He was asking because he needed to know if there was someone who could help me if I needed help. He was asking because it mattered to his plans. "Yeah, I'm running solo," I said, and I kept my answer short. "Just me and the freight." "Why? Is there something going on I should know about?" "Good to know," the voice said, and it came through low and slow, like he was taking satisfaction from that answer. "Yeah, good to know that you were alone out there. The desert gets real lonely at night. Ever pick up riders? You ever stop and give rides to people who need a lift?" I hesitated. The static on the CB filled the silence between us, and I could hear the engine sounds of other trucks in the background on the frequency. Something about this guy was setting off every alarm in my brain. My gut was screaming at me that something was wrong. "Not my thing," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I usually run solo and keep to myself. Stay safe out there." I reached over and turned the volume down on the CB. My gut was telling me something was wrong, and I had learned a long time ago to listen to that feeling. My gut was the reason I was still alive. I drove for a few more minutes in silence, but the back of my neck felt like it was on fire with tension. The muscles in my shoulders were tight. Then the radio hissed again, and the same voice came back. He was not done trying to talk to me. "Red Runner," he said, and his voice was drawn out and slow and menacing. "I have been looking at your rig more carefully. You got some real nice tires on that truck. They look like they're brand new. Brand new, shiny, pristine. I would hate for something to happen to one of those tires out here in the middle of the desert. Tire blowout, flat tire, something like that. Wouldn't want that for you. Be real bad out here, stranded in the dark." My fingers tightened around the steering wheel so hard that my knuckles turned white. My tires were new. I had put them on just 2 days ago in Oklahoma City. They had cost me a lot of money, and I was proud of them because they were good quality tires that would last me a long time. But how could this person know that my tires were new? Unless they had seen me up close. Unless they had seen my truck in detail at that fuel stop. Unless they had been watching me carefully. Watching me. Following me. My heart started beating faster. My pulse felt like it was in my ears, drowning out all other sound. Who is this? I said into the microphone, my voice harder now. Are you following me? Are you behind me right now? That same chuckle came through the speaker, low and slow. Maybe, he said, or maybe I'm ahead of you on the highway. Maybe I'm waiting for you somewhere up ahead. Maybe I'm just playing with you. Why don't you pull off at the next exit and we will chat face to face? I got some coffee and I got stories that will make your hair stand up on the back of your neck. Real scary stuff. A cold sweat prickled down my neck and along my spine. He had definitely been there at that fuel stop watching. He had seen me pump gas, seen my rig up close, maybe from the shadows behind a pump or sitting in a parked car somewhere. He had to have been watching. And now he was trying to get me to pull off at an exit and stop the truck in an isolated location. Not interested, I snapped into the mic and I pushed the rig to 75 miles per hour. The diesel engine roared against the desert wind for the next 20 long minutes. Just silence and the road and the engine sounds. I started to think maybe it was a prank, some bored truck driver with nothing better to do than mess with people on the CB. Maybe I had imagined how weird the whole thing was. Maybe I was just tired and reading too much into it. Then I saw them in my rear view mirror. Headlights. At first they were faint and far away, but then they got brighter and brighter, and then they were too close. A dark sedan, no company markings of any kind, with high beams that were flickering in a strange rhythm, almost like a code or a signal. He was sending me a message. The CB came alive again. See me now, Red Runner? The voice said. Nice and close. Real close now. Getting closer. I am right behind you. Back off. I barked into the radio. Back off right now, before someone gets hurt. I don't know what you want, but I am not stopping. Oh, but you are, the voice said, and now it was calm in a way that was more frightening than anger would have been. Pull over. Let's see what you are hauling. Pull over slowly, and we could talk about this. A pulse of fear shot through me from my head to my feet. I had heard stories over the years about road pirates, guys who scouted truck stops and marked trucks, targeted solo drivers with valuable cargo. Some were thieves trying to make money. Some were just not right in the head, something broken inside them. Something twisted and wrong. This guy sounded like both. The sedan crept alongside my trailer, pacing me perfectly as we drove. Its windows were pitch black, covered or tinted so dark that I could not see inside. It was impossible to see who was driving or how many people were in the car. It edged closer to my lane until the wheels scraped along the lane divider, trying to nudge me gradually toward the shoulder of the road. Hey, I yelled into the mic, back off before someone gets seriously hurt. This is crazy. Back off. The laughter that came through the speaker was hollow and distorted, like something was broken inside the radio itself. Don't make this harder than it has to be, the voice said. This is not personal. You just have something that I want, and we can make this simple or we can make it hard. Your choice. My adrenaline was running so high that I felt like my hands were shaking. Up ahead, I could see a sign flash in my headlights. Rest area 5 miles. If I could make it there, maybe I would find lights and cameras and other drivers, people who could help me or at least witness what was happening. I pressed the accelerator down hard. The engine screamed with effort, and the truck surged forward. The sedan dropped back for a second, and then it slammed into my rear bumper hard. The impact jolted the entire cab, so hard that my teeth clacked together, and I tasted blood inside my mouth. I gripped the wheel tight, wrestling the truck to keep it going straight. Stop that. I shouted into the mic, stop ramming my truck. That is the idea, he said, and his voice was cool and collected, like he was talking about the weather. Pull over, or I will make you pull over. I will keep doing this until you stop. It is up to you. Make it easy on yourself. I could smell burning rubber from the friction of the tires on the road. My mirror showed his headlights steady and relentless, staying right behind me. I prayed silently that another trucker might be ahead of me on the road. Someone who could help. Someone who would see what was happening. 3 miles to the rest area. 2 miles. 1 mile. I could see the faint glow of street lights ahead, like a beacon calling me to safety, like the light at the end of a tunnel. I took the exit hard, my tires screeching as I turned. The trailer swayed dangerously, leaning to one side like it might tip over. The sedan followed me off the highway. The rest area was small, with just a few parking spaces, a bathroom building, and one vending machine that was humming in the corner. But there was another semi parked at the far end, its engine idling like someone was about to pull out or had just arrived. I pulled up fast and slammed on the brakes so hard that the whole truck jerked to a stop. I locked all the doors immediately. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the tire iron from under the seat, a heavy metal tool that could be used as a weapon if I needed it. The phone in my pocket barely had service, but I punched in 911 anyway. Come on, I muttered. Pick up, please pick up. Behind me, the sedan finally stopped. The door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches or taller, and lean but strong looking. He was dressed in dark clothes, jeans, and a dark jacket and a hat. His hat brim cast his face in shadow, so I could not see his features clearly. I could not see his eyes. He walked toward my cab like he had all the time in the world, like he was not worried about anything, like he knew that I was trapped. Get out, he called, and his voice was the same one I had been hearing on the CB the whole time. We need to talk. Come on out of there. No way, I shouted back through the closed window. Stay back right now. He smiled, and it was a smile that had no warmth in it. You think that iron is going to save you? He asked. You think a tire iron is going to help you? I have done this before, friend. Easy pickings on these lonely nights. Solo drivers, valuable cargo, no witnesses. Easy. My phone call connected. 911. What is your emergency? A calm voice asked on the other end. There's a guy harassing me, I said quickly. I-40 rest area. Mile marker 212. He has been following me and trying to ram my truck off the road. I need help. Send a police officer, please. Send someone. The man heard me. His grin widened. Cops out here, he said. You think the cops will get here in time? You'll be bones before they show up. Bones scattered in the desert. Nobody will ever find you. He pulled a knife for his jacket. It was long, with a blade that gleamed under the rest area lights, catching the light like a mirror. The blade looked sharp, looked like it had been used before. Before he could make another move or take another step toward my truck, headlights flared behind him. The other semi that had been parked at the far end suddenly came alive. Its engine revved loud, and the horn blared like a thunderclap that echoed across the rest area. A big man climbed down from that truck, his silhouette huge in the darkness. He was massive. Hey, he shouted. What is going on over there? What are you doing? The man with the knife froze. His attention turned toward the other driver. For a second, he looked like he was calculating his odds, deciding whether he could take on both of us. Nothing, he said smoothly, like he was trying to convince the other driver that everything was fine and normal. Just a chat between friends. Does not look like it, the other truck driver said, shining a flashlight on a man with the knife. The light caught the blade of the knife, making it visible to everyone. You okay over there, buddy? Yeah, I called the police, I said, my voice shaking. He has been stalking me for miles. He has a knife. The man hesitated, his face still partially in shadow. Then he slowly slipped the knife into his jacket pocket. His smile was gone now, replaced with anger and frustration. Fine, he muttered. Your loss. You should have cooperated. He got back into his sedan, slammed the door hard enough that I could hear the impact, and sped off into the dark. Gravel spun up from his tires as he accelerated away. The other truck driver came closer, his eyes wide with shock. You all right? He asked. That guy looked like trouble. Real trouble. What did he want? I nodded, my hand shaking. Thanks for stepping in, I said. He was trying to force me off the road, trying to get me to stop so he could rob me. I think he was trying to do something worse. Seen types like that before. he said grimly, shaking his head. Road pirates. They pick their targets. Solo runs, late nights, valuable cargo. Easy targets. Did you call in? Yeah, I said. Police are coming. We waited together for the next 15 minutes, both of us keeping a careful eye on the road and the parking area around us. Eventually, a patrol car pulled up with lights flashing. I gave the officer my statement, described the car as best I could. Black sedan, dented front bumper, high beams that flickered. The officer nodded like he had heard this before. We have had reports on this guy, the officer said. He targets truckers, especially solo runs late at night. He has gotten violent before. People have been hurt. You are lucky you did not pull over. That night, I checked into a cheap motel nearby. I could not sleep. Every time a car drove past on the street outside, every time headlights flashed across my window, I tensed up, expecting trouble. By morning, I heard over the CB that they had caught the guy at a checkpoint about 50 miles away. When they searched his car, they found a knife, duct tape, stolen electronics, and even a gun. He had done the same attack 3 times that month alone. One of his victims had not walked away. I still haul freight every day, and I still drive these same routes, but now I take different roads when I can. I keep the CB off at night, and when my gut tells me something is wrong, I listen to it immediately. I do not question it anymore, because out there in the black miles between towns, there are worse things than loneliness waiting on the